the imagery, whether it feels like, because you can have a movie, but it needs to be I feel like immersed in kind of the what we know Christmas to be, and that's what I think Gremlins is. How do you say? Clever writing in the dialogue. If you pay attention to Die Hard, they talk about Christmas a lot or make jokes, and and they remind you of that time throughout the film. Now, the reason why people maybe they don't consider it a true Christmas movie, maybe because of its violent nature. I don't know if it's because it's just an action movie, and they're like, well,
Does a Christmas movie have to be like nice and sweet and saccharine, like all those movies that Hallmark and Lifetime play for 2 months?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think that way. But I'm saying I think the general consensus would be, that's why it's not a Christmas movie.
So what? I think a lot of people say it's not because Christmas isn't integral to the plot. They say that, well, you could make this movie set at any other time of the year and it would still be kick-ass.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could say that about so many other movies. You could take, some falling in love movie on Lifetime or whatever and transport it to Valentine's Day, and it could be a Valentine's Day movie. Like, you could do that with so many other movies, like Home Alone. Home Alone, a lot of people consider a Christmas movie because it takes place at Christmas time, but you could move that to another time of the year.
Well, didn't they do that with this? Not 2, but 3 when they changed the kid. I don't think the.
I've never seen 3.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm Macaulay Culkin or die.
Of course, but I don't think that those took place Christmas time anymore.
I think the 3rd one may have.
Yeah,
because I remember that being in the theaters. It may have.
Okay,
but don't quote me on that. But I mean, besides something as iconic as A Christmas Carol or maybe It's a Wonderful Life, like so many other Christmas movies in air quotes can be set at some other time of the year and not really be considered a Christmas movie anymore. But just because they set the story on Christmas Eve, a lot of people would say, well, it's not technically a Christmas movie.
Oh, okay.
But I would consider it, you would consider it, I'm sure many of our good listeners would consider it. But so it's like, what makes or doesn't make a Christmas movie would probably be your central question, excuse me. But I mean, is it the lesson thing? Because like John and Holly are estranged at the beginning of the movie, and it's over the course of this night and his ordeal and hers that they kind of they reconnect, and at the very end of the movie they make up. They're husband and wife. He introduces her as Holly Gennaro, and she corrects him and says Holly McClane, and they're very happy to be alive and be with each other again. I would say that he changes throughout the course of the movie. So there you go, lesson learned. Christmas movie.
Well played, sir. Well played.
So that's what I think. So, I don't know. Where do you want to start? I have so many notes. I showed you that picture yesterday of all my notes.
Let's tell him, give him the basic synopsis and what we're talking about, who's starring in it, the director.
Oh, I got a page and a half of notes on John McTiernan, man. That guy has an interesting story.
Yeah.
Okay, the plot of Die Hard is Bruce Willis's character, John McClane. He is a New York cop. He comes out to Los Angeles to see his wife and kids at Christmas time. And while he's at this Christmas party is going on in a high-rise building, there are some, what you would say, terrorists, even though we find out that they're not really terrorists. They're just after money. Take over this building, and John happens to escape and using his wits and his knowledge, he manages to evade the terrorists, take them out, and creates a very pretty iconic action film. Because this scenario where the lone wolf is trapped and is fighting terrorists or fighting some other group all by himself and taking these guys down has been copied quite a bit after this.
More recently, that new Rock film.
Skyscraper, yeah, which was basically the Towering Inferno meets Die Hard, which might have been like one of the pull quotes from the ad campaign. But like Passenger 57 is basically Die Hard. I mean, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's like Die Hard on a plane or Die Hard on Battleship Under Siege." Mm-hmm. Is Die Hard on the Battleship with Steven Seagal. I think a lot of people said that Speed was Die Hard on the Bus, but I don't really see Speed as Die Hard on the Bus because Speed is another great iconic action film.
That's pretty original, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty original idea and a pretty fun idea, and I don't see that was a copy of Die Hard at all.
Maybe it's Dennis Hopper, right?
Yeah.
I could see the comparisons with that, with his kind of over the topness, and it just feels like it could have been an 80s movie. Yes,
but Dennis Hopper, like Alan Rickman, I got so many notes on Alan Rickman too because he fucking rocks in this movie. He's another just really fun villain that is as interesting, if not more interesting, than the main character because he's so fun and has so many great lines and great scenes in the film, and you can't have a good action movie or superhero movie if you don't have a good villain. And Die Hard for sure and Speed for sure have great villains.
I agree. Yeah.
And Jan de Bont, who directed Speed, is the director of photography on Die Hard.
There you go.
So maybe that's where he got it from. But would you say that covers the plot, the bare bones plot of the film?
Yeah. I have a question for you, actually.
Yes, sir.
I've wondered this for years. Maybe you can shed some light on it. Why is it called Die Hard? Is there a reason? Is it just to be clever? Like, what's the motive behind that title?
I don't know if when we were listening to the trailer, they said he's a hard man to kill. Mm-hmm. He dies hard. Maybe. I don't know if you caught the credit at the beginning of the film, but this is actually based on a novel.
Yes.
Okay. The novel was... There was a novel in the 60s, I forget the year exactly, called The Detective. Mm-hmm. And they made a film out of that. Frank Sinatra was the main character in that. And then I think that was from 1968 is the film. And then the novelist that wrote The Detective, a guy by the name of Roderick Thorpe, wrote a follow-up novel with the same character called Nothing Lasts Forever, where he goes to visit his daughter out in Los Angeles, the high-rise building. He was a New York cop. Goes to visit his daughter, and terrorists take over the building, and he's the lone hero running around in the building, evading capture and taking out terrorists. Actually, quite a bit of plot from the book is in Die Hard. There's a lot of big scenes, and a lot of the characters are the same. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the scenes, like him jumping off the roof with the fire hose and running around in the air ducts. There's another couple of pretty big action scenes in the film that are from that novel. But when they wanted to make a movie of the novel, I mean, Frank was in his 60s, I think. So he obviously didn't want to do it, and he was probably well past the age of the character. Excuse me. So they offered it to all kinds of people. That's in my notes, but like Mel Gibson and Clint Eastwood, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Richard Dean Anderson, who was MacGyver, offered it to him, and all of them turned it down, and they managed to get Bruce Willis to do it. But because Frank didn't want to do it, and because they had changed just enough, they retitled it Die Hard. They changed the character enough that he doesn't have the name of the character from the book.
Okay.
Something Leland, I think, is his last name. I'd have to look it up. It might be in my notes. But they changed just enough, and they retitled it Die Hard, which is a cooler title, anyways. Nothing Lasts Forever, I think, was the name of a James Bond book too.
Oh.
Random trivia.
Cool. That's pretty. Yeah. Where do we go from here?
Well, let's talk about McTiernan. Let's talk about John McTiernan.
All right.
Because his story is interesting. Big action director. He directed 3 stone cold classic films, 2 like perfect action movies, Predator and Die Hard. Mm-hmm. He did Predator the year before this, and then after Die Hard, he followed that up with not so much an action movie, but a great thriller, The Hunt for Red October. Mm-hmm. Very, very good movie. I can't speak on how good the Tom Clancy novel is, but that movie is fucking good. And
it's with Sean Connery, right?
With Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin. Jack Ryan. It's the Jack Ryan series. And unfortunately, I don't know if it was a contract thing or not, but Alec Baldwin didn't return. Harrison Ford came in and did Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger, which are both very, very good movies. I don't know if Tom Clancy really cared for Harrison Ford. I think he more so liked Alec Baldwin as the Jack Ryan character, but McTiernan directed those 3 movies, Predator, Die Hard, and The Hunt for Red October. Perfect films. And then he had 2 movies that weren't good. He did a movie called Medicine Man in the early 90s with Connery again. That isn't great. It's about a doctor looking for the cure for cancer, like in I believe the Amazon rainforest. Mm-hmm. And then Last Action Hero, which you guys have covered and has come up multiple times on this podcast, talking about Shane Black. And when you guys actually did the Last Action Hero episode,
which you actually said you were disappointed on. I probably should have brought you on. I don't know why, if it was a schedule conflict or something.
It might have been a schedule conflict, just because that movie has such a fascinating backstory. And I think you guys just had like a time constraint, so you didn't get into as deep of a dive into the backstory on how that movie came together and all the red flags that should have said you need to go back and reshoot or you need to go back and redo a script. But that wasn't a disappointment like you guys shit the bed on the episode. It was just a disappointment that because of the time constraint, you didn't get into so much of why that movie failed, because there were so many things that said this movie's going to fail, and this is a bad decision, a bad move by Columbia Pictures. And I think even McTiernan has said that they were under such pressure and the schedule was so tight on that film that there was no way they could have delivered a good movie in the time frame they were given to make it.
With what I wouldn't say it's entertaining.
It is entertaining.
It's fun.
It's entertaining. It has major flaws in it, but I think I just have a biased opinion because I saw it as a kid. Yeah.
And as a kid, you're like, holy, what the fuck is this? Because it kind of breaks all these rules. But, it needs some work. Or it could have used some work, And
you guys got into it on the episode that Austin O'Brien is not a good actor.
Yeah.
And he's a big part of why the movie's bad, because he's got a bunch of bad line readings and
Going into
scenes.
watching, kind of screening it for the show, I was just kind of focusing on him and seeing if he was as bad as you had said. And yeah, he's just he's just overacting the shit out of that role.
I don't know what other movies he had done. I don't remember seeing him in anything. That's not to say he hasn't. I just don't remember anything but that movie.
It's kind of odd that